It doesn't hatch.
What is?
Oh.
The
What is
seeds.
it?
Oh, walnuts.
It's a walnut, yeah. But it's been hollowed.
A hollowed nut.
The hollowed nuts.
The hollowed
So this is a
You're
this is
a-
a hybrid,
you
black walnut hybrid.
I had a chilo.
He made a bunch of different ones, from native California ones, European ones, and East Coast walnuts. This tree was planted in 1885.
Wow.
It's over 130 years old now. And it dumps so many nuts here still. It's amazing. Mostly he was looking for something that had both good nut production. It was easier to crack than a regular one. This is not as small and as full of shell as a regular black walnut. It's a little bit bigger. It's not so thin shelled as a Carpathian or Persian walnut, but it's somewhere in between. And the lumber was very valuable too. See, the thin shelled walnut, the wood is worth nothing. But of a black walnut, you know how much this tree is worth, Ross? Over thousands of years, over thousands of miles. He just concentrated all that into one place in a small amount of time, in a small amount of area. And that's what we call scientific breeding nowadays. Now the problem was he didn't keep good records because he wasn't that into exactly what had happened. He was more like, give me the results. So when the scientists came to like, okay, the plant wizard of Santa Rosa, okay, let's see what this guy is really doing over here. They said, show us your records. Well, he had all these handwritten notes that were really hard to read because back then there were no plant patents. Like in May, late April or May. So you can see the chestnut is already leafed out, but some of the other juglans, the different walnut, wartnut, heartnut, anybody hear those? Know what those are?
Yeah.
You know those?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of them.
Yeah, so those are all juglans. They're related to Sorbus domestica or service tree. This is the same tree where we're eating under. That's the walnut. This is the Sorbus domestica or service tree. You have to let these fruits blet or actually get a little bit rotten and soft, and then they're like apple butter. They're amazing. I think for raw people, this could be super awesome. Get the name of that. So let's go from here over now. I want to show you this. So this is a quince that's flowering. Look at the beautiful bark on the quince. See the bark? Isn't it lovely? This is the Chinese quince. Check out the fruits, the baby fruits on it. These get to be about this big and bright yellow and super fragrant. This is the Chinese quince. There are some flowers out here that are quite lovely, but you can see the young fruit starting. They get about half a kilo or up to a Lyonii, and the mainland one, that's the prickly one, that's the Ilicifolia. And you'll see the hybrids between the two here. See the smooth-leafed one? And this is the prickly one. Often plants on islands lose their defenses. So locust tree, excellent. These trees are very valuable. The wood inside is very dark and does not rot. 50-year fence post. This is the black one, and this is the white flowering one. The purple flowering one is not as strong. It's beautiful, but it's very brittle and tends to split out. What are the pom-poms? The pom-pom?
I want to climb that.
That's the same plant as that with support. That's what vines do. They borrow the support of other plants. That's a wisteria. That's what those giant cables are down there. The chestnut varieties we brought in, some of these are multi-grafted. We'll see another tree over here that has a lot of different limbs on it. Another very valuable wood. Very valuable wood. And the nuts are important too. Great food. I have a friend who's making a lot of money off of Italian walnuts. Chestnuts. So chestnut, right? You got the nut, and then what else? Italy, I remember the rafters of all these stone buildings were all giant chestnut trees. So this is another excellent timber nut crop. So this area here, we have some espaliers, but please use deer protection. If you're going to be growing fruit trees, keep the deer out. Otherwise, you're going to just be feeding them with your fancy plantings. This is done by the California Rare Fruit Growers. Grow some of that. Isn't that? So people are really afraid of broom. There are sterile hybrids. Might they revert and become fertile? Maybe. But that's a nice one. And for chop and drop, sterile broom. Sterile.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a sterile hybrid. It doesn't make viable seeds. So, hello. Oak, the live oak, and the chestnut. It's really nice. And look in here, all on the edges, it's all wild fruit trees seeding themselves. Wild apples, wild plums, wild peppermint cherries, all in the understory here. These are different plum hybrids we're working with. That's a pear, plum, apple, rose.
1,000 feet, you said?
1,000-foot rows, man. You just lay them out. Make those, get a hybrid going, get the seeds. I really wanted to see like rows of all the flowers, like get all the annuals in rows. A avocado tree, and you can see how it got cut off and it's grown back from its rootstock. Now, hopefully this is a nice Mexicola type or something that's worth eating. Zutanos sometimes are also used as rootstock, and those are a couple of the more cold tolerant ones. Number one would be Mexicola, then Zutano and bacon as the next ones in line for cold hardiness.
It was open, so.
We didn't get chased out. So this is it. We got to go to the farm because it's 50-minute hill. So walk through here on your way to your car to come see some of the. There's the house here. Sometimes they open it up and it's a lot of great information here. But look at what they have on the wall and here on their way out.
John, look at this.
Check it out. Come. There he is on his bicycle. Come see Mr. Burbank on his bicycle.
Oh my God. Everybody asks us about it every spring because it's around.
Here's the seed style.
My goodness.
Either they're running.
Small farm, but we have a big name. And on that 2.5 to 3 acres of production, about 40% of our produce goes to our CSA. We've been running a CSA. This will be our 8th year. And about 50% goes to farmers markets. We have 2 farmers markets that go year-round, and then we have an additional 3 farmers markets that are just in the season. One started last week, and then we'll have a couple more rolling in. And then about 10% of our sales come from restaurants. So I was just finishing up doing some deliveries right now. So basically all of our food stays right here in our community. Within the furthest is one of the farmers markets that's all of 12 miles away. So it's really wonderful to keep our produce here locally. I also didn't say this, but our CSA goes year-round as well. And what we do is we do a weekly CSA from May 1st through Thanksgiving, and then Thanksgiving through April, we do an every other week CSA. And that's very useful for us because things grow much more slowly in the winter. Yes, we can grow things in the winter, and we think it's really, really important to grow things in the winter because you and I, we eat our vegetables year-round.
Right.
You know, but
Yes.
we want to eat locally. Luther Burbank said that Sonoma County, I know you guys are not from Sonoma County, but you're
But we
close
just
enough.
visited, we were just on Gold Ridge.
Down in a triangle, and the crust you just drove down the driveway is right up here, literally.
Yeah.
So it's just this inclined pizza crust. It goes a little bit up at the tip, just like you would eat it, right? and then this is the crust here, and we're very lucky to have a good amount of water. So our neighbor's property over here is just a residential property. They have a year-round spring that is actually their water source. So whatever they don't use goes into their pond and then runs off into our pond. Usually what we do when we plant our tomatoes is we'll plant a row of tomatoes and then we'll do one crop on one side and one crop on the other side. But here we just had a crop and we said, let's just make a little space in between the lettuces. And actually after these lettuces come out, which we should do the final harvest, I know they look ugly, but once you clean them up, they're actually nice. We're actually going to add more crops along the side. So let's take a look at some other better ones.
Class, before we go any further, I'd like to introduce this disruptive man. He's my husband.
Seen a huge reduction in pests. We definitely have pests. We have insect pests of all sorts. You can find them all here,
We see
but
by
they
your-
are
by your
all,
roll cover.
you got it. Well, that's actually for birds.
Oh, nice.
Which is another thing that the hedgerows bring in, which is a positive. But in the springtime, they go after the greens. And especially there are a couple kinds of birds who love. We've been here for 10 years. Our background was not necessarily in farming. we're both one generation removed from farming. I've got an uncle who manages our family farms in Kansas. My husband had farms in Illinois. He didn't. His grandfather did. So when we got here, our prior experience, he and I met in West Africa, and I was doing human health and he was doing agroforestry. We were doing the Peace Corps. This is very much what it sounds like, agroforestry, bringing forest trees into agriculture. It is what Bill Mollison, who's one of the founders of permaculture, really used to take a lot of the practical applications that they made into permaculture. They then added all sorts of beautiful systems thinking and so forth. Permaculture is much more. The second year we started at CSA with only 20 members, so we were still really, really learning. And I look at pictures of our soil back then, and man, we had weed issues, man, we had cucumber beetles, we had major losses, things like that. And what we were seeing is that the soil was just getting degraded very, 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 very quickly. And so on one side we're building things up, and on the other side we're degrading things. So we sort of felt this, like we were working against ourselves a little bit. And then we also had the following year, so we had about 50 CSA members, we had a really phenomenal employee. His name is Marty, and he's here today. I don't know where around. Okay? Let's drop it up. Yeah. They're everywhere. Yeah, they're awesome.
They're working.
Yeah, they are. They're moving really quickly.
They're cute little guys, though. I love them.
Yeah.
So then we will utilize some fertilizers, okay?
Full-time, no. Farm specialist, no. Irrigation lines first. There's still overhead water.
I'd buy the black box. I'm like, oh, fan of that black box.
Sheesh.
I know, right? It's like a walk in.
Feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Toxic zone.
Oh, beautiful.
1, 2, 3. This one is a little bit small. These are just flowers, so don't look at them. They're not. And this thing, do not look at that. A workshop participant did that. But we transplant large things out into the field. So this lettuce, I can even transplant it a little bit bigger, but actually the root ball looks great. We want our, actually it could grow a tiny bit more. We want our root ball to look about like that, so it holds together pretty well in your hands. This one fell apart a little bit. When we transplant, we do it all by hand. You saw the hand part that was carrying them down and coming back up again. You saw our irrigation lines. I didn't talk about the irrigation. We buy the expensive. So anyway, thinking so far ahead in terms. I want to get out of here, but anyway, so anyway, some winter squash here. Unfortunately, those were stacked, and I didn't get them unstacked. I don't know if they're going to do okay.
Yeah.
They'll be fine.
That probably will. I've got some eggplants here. I've got peppers here. Had a major rat problem this spring in here. Lost several thousands of dollars. Some tomatoes that are going out soon. Otherwise, some basil, tatsoi, and bok choy were seeded
They're
today.
flowering.
Oh no.
It looks like there's beauty.
They'll keep flowering.
I know they will, but anyway, they need to get out
They do.
or up potted.
Yeah.
So,
Look at that, amazing in a six-pack. They're raring to go.
yeah. So they are.
So the heat mats are obviously off,
They are off.
but you germinated with them.
We did, especially for the things. We start our first tomatoes New Year, about New Year's.
New Year.
There's ducks too.
Yeah.
I didn't see that at first.
Yeah, it's cute.
They have ducks. I didn't see that at first. I thought they were just little birds.